So there was a recent article written by the Wall Street Journal that basically said people inside of Disney were growing concerned about the price hikes, as apparently some internal surveys had shown that the guest intent to return percentage was dropping. Meaning people that, they survey people and they're saying, what are the chances of you coming back? That is getting lower and lower. And basically the whole article, they kind of teamed up with Touring Plans, had some data in the article. And but the whole thing was people inside of Disney were growing concerned about this, at least some. And some of the things are pretty wild in the article, and then we'll go into the poll time here, was one of the things that stuck out to me was that they said, in terms of a Walt Disney World vacation cost, data from Touring Plans says that a typical 4-day visit to Walt Disney World had jumped $1,000 in 5 years, adjusted for inflation. And in that, it says the report says that almost 80%. Oh, sorry, and that took the tally up to $4,200 roughly. And in that report, it also said that 80% of that jump in price is for things that were previously free.
80%.
And 20% of the cost came from Disney raising prices faster than the rate of inflation. But 80% of the additional cost in 5 years are on things that used to be free, or whatever you say, included in your trip. I thought that was wild. There was also Disney rebutted back in the article and said that no, it's not true. You can go on a 4-day vacation for as little as like $3,000. More than likely finding, they still have those, the low end days price-wise don't change very much. So more than likely, they found a 4-day pocket in there where you could technically, well, they're not wrong. You could go for $3,000, but that's not like that price is available year round. It would just depend on when you travel. So Disney also responded to this. They had a statement they released.
You want to talk about that before we do our poll?
It's not really much. They basically just come out and say, they're Disney and people love going to Disney. They cited the current discounts that they're offering, which...
They did do that.
But they cited the discounts. It was all Florida resident discounts. And it's also discounts that they're doing in response to Epic Universe opening, which I thought was kind of funny. So they didn't come out and say it was a direct rebuttal to that article, but it came out within like a day of that article.
Yeah, it was like the next day or 2 days
So
later.
it was clearly trying to put out some PR refuting whatever the article was saying. So I felt like I don't really think it proved the point they thought, because it's not, they do have the discounts, but a lot of the discounts they were talking about run out by like May. Yeah. So it wasn't, they were touting a lot of the Disneyland has that $50 offer for kids, which is a good deal. They don't have it for Disney World.
That's over in March.
I know.
So it's not even like the whole year. It's just like a couple months, which again, discounts are great to have. But they also mentioned that they said they haven't increased the lowest price ticket to Disneyland since 2019. But they didn't say anything about Disney World.
Right.
Because Disney World is not the case.
They just recently did raise the lowest price ticket. But they usually will leave that one alone for the most part. Yeah. So they can, technically they can say, hey, we do have the option. It's $3,000 for a 4-day ticket thing. Even though most dates you're going to go, you're probably going to pay closer to $4,000 plus.
Yeah, and as a blanket statement, the CFO said, "We know our parks create lifelong memories for families, and we've worked hard to make a Disney vacation accessible to guests of all income levels. With strong guest satisfaction scores and intent to visit ratings, our parks remain the most popular offering in the industry." Okay, that may be true, and maybe you may have a lot of people that it's like, yes, we will come back, but what the Wall Street Journal article was saying, what even Touring Plans was showing with their own data, was saying, I don't know how true that actually is. Like how many people are actually returning or able to return.
Yeah, that was like the only thing that I think they directly refuted, because the whole base of that article was internally it was showing that people were telling them they weren't going to return, or more or less people were showing that, and they were saying that that's not the case. And whoever... obviously, they don't have internal data from Disney, so it's hard to know who's right on that. But their article did see, to show that people inside of Disney had been growing. I think the term that they used was that the company had become addicted to price hikes.
Yeah.
They had another instance where they talked about, which this is kind of interesting because maybe it shows how this came about, was when Iger came back, he was growing concerned about the reputation of it being expensive to go to Disney. He asked D'Amaro to come up with a list of things that the company could do to win back fans. D'Amaro reportedly offered up suggestions such as removing the parking fee at hotels, adding more dates to the lowest tier of ticket prices, and that it could freeze the annual price increases for tickets. Iger liked 2 out of the 3 suggestions, keeping the annual price increases in place.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that it seems like the removing the parking at hotels was like a consolation thing. I've said all along, though, I mean, it's never been cheap to go to Disney, but given all, I mean, how much things have changed so quickly and how much the prices have gone up so quickly, you would probably get a lot of goodwill if you did come out and say, hey, you know what, we hear you, like times are hard and people are trying to make ends meet. We're not gonna raise any prices on tickets for like 2 years. You're still gonna make money, but the fact that like they wouldn't even do that is just like a goodwill gesture is kind of telling. Because if you look at the annual earnings report, the attendance essentially has stalled. It hasn't really dropped, nor has it gained, but their revenue keeps going up because the prices keep slowly ticking up. So you're essentially charging either the same amount of people or less people more money to go. And I do think this model has a ceiling, it has a wall eventually. I mean, you just can't raise prices in perpetuity forever. And I'm wondering if maybe it's starting. This is the beginning stage or in the middle of maybe just people being like, not that they don't come back, but they'll just be like, maybe we'll wait a couple of years. It's not that people aren't coming back necessarily, but they may just not be coming back at the rate they used to. When people used to came yearly or twice a year, they may cut it back to, way less, and that will affect them as well. But it was interesting just seeing that article out there in Disney, which they normally don't do, basically openly refuting it with their own little statement they put out. It definitely seems like something that Iger was like, put out a statement because this looks bad or something like that. But we bring that up because Jamie did ask a poll in our Capture Magic Facebook community here. Yeah,
so I asked everybody, do you think Disney, Walt Disney World specifically, has become too expensive for the average tourist? Kind of giving... I mean, this is a bunch of Disney people. I want their opinions. Like, they go to Disney a lot for the most part. Do they think it's expensive? And 85% of them said yes.
Wow.
That's a lot. I mean, like, when you think about that, they all agree that it's too expensive for the average tourist. Only 2% said no. And 13% said it depends. So some of the comments, and I do want to read a few of these just to give an idea of what people are thinking. So someone said, yes, prices continue to rise while they only minimally expanding the park. A good portion isn't even expansion, it's replacing. That's a good point. That drives me crazy. We're DVC members, so we aren't feeling all of the price increases, but tickets are getting out of control. I recently priced out tickets for our December 2025 trip, a 4-day non-hopper, and estimating what tickets would be to the Christmas party will be $3,500 just for tickets.
Jeez.
And that, I mean, like that alone, just looking at that number alone, yeah, your average tourist, your middle class, vacationer, that plus the hotel, plus, getting to Florida and food and everything, that's just not, that's just out of the question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And especially, it's just, anyway. Let's see. Somebody said it's getting increasingly more expensive, but there are still plenty of dates that rooms are hard to find and the parks are full. So I guess it's not too expensive. Maybe people are just in debt up to their eyeballs and don't care. In fact, that is true. In fact, I think the same article said that way more people are going into debt just to take a vacation. Yeah,
there's a Lending Tree article or a survey that was last year sometime, and it was something like almost 80% of families were going into some form of debt.
It's insane.
To go on a Disney vacation.
It's insane. Someone else said, it's always been an expensive luxury, but still doable for a family. As a single mom, I could take the 3 of us on a yearly week-long vacation staying on site at a value in the early 2000s. I am now spending more than just me for 4 nights. There's also a lack of included items. I could justify staying on site with Magical Express, package delivery, and free extra magic hours in the evening. I feel like now everything is an extra cost.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Too.
It's not only just the price of the tickets. It's also, I mean, back in before COVID, you had Fast Pass, you had the magical, the extended magic hours, you had a lot more perks, you had Magical Express. So your ticket was worth more. Now your ticket is more expensive and it's kind of worth less because not only that, if you want to use, Lightning Lane, you have to buy that. And so that's an easy, depending on how many people in your party, I mean, that can be $100 a day on top of everything else. So if you think about your ticket cost, that's essentially the entry point to that. Plus, if you want all the extra things used to be included or not. So it's very much, I've always felt along they saw the demand they had. And because it is, I mean, it's still it's a world-class vacation destination. It's a place people love to go. But I think at the same time, tickets have risen. The accommodations and the level of service have not risen with it. In fact, I would argue the maintenance and things like that have tailed off. And I think because of that, when people start paying that much more, you do get a little bit more like, okay, is this like you get a little more, you scrutinize it a little bit more. But the sentiment, I mean, you can see it everywhere. Even if you're pro Disney, even in the group, you can just see where you can still love going to Disney and say it's great, which Disney is still a great place. I don't think it's as great as it used to be. I don't think the parks are run better now than they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's still a great place, which is a testament to what Disney has built. But at the same time, you can still sit there and say the pricing is getting crazy. And I think that's a fair thing to do. And not everything has to be, you don't have to love it and then love everything about it without any criticisms. I think it's very fair to criticize things that you do enjoy, especially when you talk about the pricing of things.
Well, yeah, and I've got two more that I want to read because I think they're great points. But so Samantha said, it seems expensive until you compare it to other touristy stuff. Food prices at our local zoo, way more than Disney counter service. And don't even get me started on the price of tickets or food at like ski resorts, concerts.
For sure. We talked about that before.
Sports, like
even SeaWorld.
Like she's like, I would argue everything is getting too expensive for the average family. And like, girl, you're not wrong. Like it's crazy. It's crazy how everything is expensive.
It's not just Disney.
No, it's not.
But if you look at them where they were to where they are now, I mean, you can definitely see a very aggressive tick up in the pricing since especially say 2018 2019.
And here's I think is the best point of this, just in my opinion. This is from Ashley. She says, so here's my take. Least expensive version of Disney equals not fun for version of Disney. It's getting expensive no matter what, but it's getting expensive to enjoy it. Like, yeah, you could go stay in a small 1-bedroom or 1-room value on a property while paying for some sort of hours-long ride-share transportation there, but then you risk being smashed into an oversized resort with cheer teams or school group, etc. Then you could not get in any earlier or late hours, not pay for any sort of lightning lane, but then you're stuck not riding everything you want to and waiting in the heat for a long time. You could pay for a basic ticket with no park hopper, but that means not being able to experience multiple parks in a day. All this to say, like, maybe the most basic package could still kind of be reachable to some on the lower economic side, but would it even be an enjoyable trip for anyone?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a really great point. And I think that is what Disney tries to justify, is saying, like, look at these lower price tickets. Look at all this stuff. You can still go to Disney and you can still travel there. We're like, okay, cool. But when you price your tickets higher and then you also charge for the lightning lanes now, which honestly, if you think about lightning lanes as if like it was included in your ticket, like they do in Disneyland, that means your ticket ends up being like $250 a day.
Yeah.
Like when you look at it like that and what used to be included, it's just like a gut punch. Like, oh, that's so expensive.
And it wasn't that long ago that the tickets were barely $100 too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
it's just a lot to think about. Like, yes, you can go, but is it like the Disney vacation that they advertise? Is it the Disney vacation that social media portrays? I don't know. Like, especially if you don't have that much money to spend or don't want to spend, like you're kind of limited on how much you can do. You can still enjoy it, but only to a certain extent.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, I think the thing people used to really love about how Disney was set up was everybody in the park was on the same level. So everybody, you pay your ticket fee no matter if you had a lot of money or no money. You were able to get in, and everybody had fast passes. Like everyone was on the same level playing field for the most part. And it's definitely become much different. Whereas if you've got more money, which again, I'm not mad about this. I'm just saying this is what a lot of people talk about, and it's reality.
Yep.
Is now it's like if you have the means, you have a much different experience than other people are able to do. And yeah, that's life. It is. But when you just even look, not even, I mean, barely 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, it wasn't that way.
Right.
And that's a place you could escape to and just say, hey, if you're able to get the tickets together, you got fast passes, you had the same experience, like it was still a place you could escape to. And, I think that everything else has gotten more expensive as well. And it's not just a Disney issue, but it's just one of those things where, you see Iger have the money that he makes, and you see the revenue streams they have coming in, and they still continually raise prices. At the very least, I feel like there are things that could be done that you feel like that raise in prices is getting you something extra. And I just don't feel like that's there. You know what I mean? Like the maintenance end of things isn't there. The park seems, I've never seen more trash cans overflowing with trash than I have than recent trips. It's not like the in-park end of things is being run, meticulously. It just seems like a lot of this is raise prices for the sake of raising prices or going to the C-suite, like not necessarily bettering the product. And I think that's another complaint people have, talking about this stuff. But,
yeah.
Well,
thank you everybody for participating in the poll this week. I won't do a poll every week as we had said previously. But if I have a question that I'm really, really wanting the answer to, or, is topical with what we're talking about, then I'll include it. So if you want to be part of poll time and the next poll time we have, you can join Capture the Magic Community Facebook group or on Instagram. We have a post in the stories as well.
yes.
So.